All right, so let's see. Paige, was it Paige? Yes.
Yeah.
There's someone on the
Thank you.
iPad who said, yes, I would like to buy. Susan said, I was until I was laid off on Wednesday. So we have some personal obstacles. So depending on price, Evan's iPhone, depending on price, of course, I'm available to make an offer right now. Luis said yes. Richard said I would like to buy the house ASAP. So it sounds like we do want to have an informal discussion. It's not going to be the meeting that we had with our agenda. So it sounds like people want to continue a discussion right now. And what Carlos is bringing up for that discussion is to talk about the houses, the purchase of the houses. Luis says, you mentioned there were 2 ways to structure the purchase offers based on income. Can you go over those briefly? So if everyone's okay to move forward and have an informal discussion, can we get a thumbs up? Or let's see, I got 1 thumbs up. I got 2, 3, 4. Anyone else?
I don't have a thumbs up feature. Where is it?
So on the bottom, Lorraine, it says reactions.
I don't have a reaction.
Or it could be on the 3 little dots.
No, I just have chat, share.
Okay, well, it seems like there's a lot of people who are giving their thumbs up to move forward. So we're gonna go ahead and move forward.
Yeah.
And do you know where the chat is, Lorraine?
Yeah, see the chat.
Okay, so go ahead, and if you want to write in thumbs up or say yes, that's fine with me, then that's fine.
Okay.
Okay, so all right, Carlos.
So the question was about structuring, 2 ways of structuring. I think it was Luis, or is that the question?
Yes. And I think you mentioned something about price. And by the way, if folks have questions, please, by all means, feel free to chime in and ask away. The chat option is great. I think that the value of any dialogue that we have is it's good either way. Via chat, if you have a question, ask it. So the reason why I said that is because if you look at the dot.ca.gov website, where Caltrans actually posts the information regarding the home sales process, you'll find that they identify the many phases by which they're gonna sell the houses, right? And they claim that they are currently engaged in phase 1. But again, I want to be clear, and I hope that everyone on the call can understand that the concept of phases, whether it was phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, my property is in phase 2, or who knows what, that's no longer the case. TSM TDM being selected as a preferred alternative last year and being certified by the federal government this year and approved by the board late last year really took all those options off the table. So it's a moot point. It's no longer relevant. All houses should now be declared surplus and excess. And so that sets off or that initiates the process by which, when you look at the dot.ca.gov website, they identify the priority in terms of order of sales. I think the first priority, as you guys know, is a current tenant who's a former owner. That means that if back in 1965 you owned the house and Caltrans bought that house from you, and you stayed there and continued to live on as a tenant and have been there now since the house was sold to Caltrans as a tenant who's a former owner, then you get the first right of refusal once that conditional offer of sale goes out. At least that's our understanding of it. We don't have any experience with that because we don't believe that there's any examples of folks who are the former owners who are the current tenants. And so, can't really speak to that, but we understand why it's there. To answer the question that was asked, steps 2 and 3, or the priority for potential buyers, number 2 and number 3, it really depends on a number of things. If you look at that website, and if you look at the information that Caltrans is following, and if you look at the way that they went about offering some of the initial homes up for folks who were a part of that phase 1 sales process 2 years ago, the conditions by which you will receive that offer of sale is that you'll have to have been in residence for 2 or more years. And if you have been there for 2 or more years, and you are of low or moderate income, then you get an option to purchase. At that point, the price will likely be determined by either the affordable price that's set by Caltrans, and that's with the appraised fair market value. It really is up to the tenant, and it's at the tenant's request. There's a lawsuit at the moment that's still outstanding that's meant to address what those numbers should be. But at the end of the day, it's going to be dependent on a number of factors, including an independent appraisal, perhaps, and Caltrans assessment. And so that's the second step. The third step is actually one that just requires that you'll have to have been in the residence for 5 or more years. You can't make over 150% of the median area income. And this is important for everybody who's on the call to look for yourselves. If you would like the information, then please provide us with your email addresses or a way we can send it to you. But it's real simple. You just have to look at the county median income for the year 2019, 2020 to understand where you're at. And what determines where you're at is your household size and your income from your taxes the previous year. So in 2020, you're looking at how much you made in 2019. And then you're looking at how many people are on your lease with Caltrans, because sometimes it's the case where, you have, you, your spouse, 2 kids, your kids have now gone off to college. So now it's just you and your spouse. And so you got to look at the lease and the language in your lease to understand how many people are in your household, and then understand what the median income is for the county to better understand if you meet that 150% threshold of the area median income. Because if you do, and you've been there for more than 5 years, then same thing applies. At your request, you get the affordable price or the appraised fair market value. And so those are just important things to know. Again, we can forward you guys this information so you can find it for yourselves. But in terms of actual numbers, it could be one of 2, affordable or appraised fair market at this point. Roberto, will that change with the lawsuit?
No. The lawsuit is about keeping Caltrans true to the law, to the Roberti law, and making sure that the option to buy, to purchase, if you qualify, low, affordable, you should be able to purchase the house at the original price. By purchase, I'm going to put, of course, quotations around that word, because you are in partnership with Cal HFA. You're both going to own the house together. Cal HFA is a silent partner. You will have all rights to the house as an owner. And but if your medium income, I think this is the question that's being asked. If your medium moderate income or close to that 150%, let's say you're at 130% of medium income, you should have the option, and we haven't tested this yet, but you should have the option to go affordable, or that is in combination with Cal HFA, which is not Caltrans, by the way. Okay, Caltrans has nothing to do with this. And you should be able to go and purchase with Cal HFA as affordable, or you should be able to purchase at market. For those people that are in moderate income, you should have both options. At least that's been past practice. And that's the way we interpret the Roberti bill as well. For low income, of course, it's just a practical issue that you only qualify to purchase it at affordable at the original price. And I think this kind of moves into the lawsuit. What we're suing about is for those tenants that qualify as affordable, low affordable, should be able to purchase your home for the amount that the original price. However, the difference between your price and the market value gets assigned to a state agency called California Finance Housing, or Housing Finance. And they hold that part of the deed. And so if the house is sold after 5 years, they need to be paid off first. Okay. And so there's many, many details, and we don't want to get bogged down right now in those details. We want to have a workshop perhaps. As soon as we get this campaign, if there's a campaign going to happen to purchase, it seemed like the vast majority of the people that are on the Zoom are ready and want to purchase. From what the comments I've been looking at, I haven't heard from those that cannot at this point. Maybe I think there was one, and we need to talk about how to safeguard their rights and their situation given COVID and everything else. I think there was a person that said they just recently got laid off and is now in a situation where they're not confident that they can purchase. And so we need to figure out how we can ask Caltrans, we demand of Caltrans that they not initiate a sale, or that they can pause a sale because of COVID, pause it until the tenant is ready to trigger it. So I think there's got to be an understanding with Caltrans while we're pushing for sales, that we let Caltrans know that this is not a normal situation, so that we do want a guarantee for those people that are not ready to purchase to delay their purchase for a better time. So, but anyway, that's where we're at. In terms of the lawsuit, the Caltrans had on Thanksgiving Day, Caltrans informed us, the United Caltrans Tenants and our lawyer, that they would no longer pursue the inflated price. So for all intents and purposes, we have won the lawsuit, or the main objective of the lawsuit, which was to force Caltrans to follow the law. However, Caltrans has now not informed us as to what is it that they're going to do. What regulations exactly are they using? And given that our lawsuit is active, we have not closed the lawsuit because Caltrans refuses to tell us what regulations they will use during sales. We know that they say that they're no longer going to use the inflated price. However, they haven't told us what they're going to do. They told us what they're not going to do, but they haven't told us what they're going to do.
Okay, so for those unfamiliar with STAC, I'll be taking STAC, and it just means people in line to ask questions or to comment. So first we had, sorry, I'm trying to look for it. First we had Luis Michael mention something, and then we had,
It's the day of almost the 100th anniversary of the Oklahoma massacre.
I'm sorry, is it Luis Michael or Louis?
Yeah.
Am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, that's just the name of my computer. It's actually Tim.
Tim.
Oh, hi,
Okay.
Tim.
So
Sorry.
it's Luis,
Iverson, right?
it's Tim,
Yeah.
and then it's David, and then it's Paige.
Yeah, attacked by
Yeah.
a black man.
Yeah, sorry, that's a bit confusing, but it is Tim. Yeah, I just wanted to comment and just follow up on those last comments. I mean, it's just to reinforce actually that point that, you know, we know that they've been defeated on this idea of the inflated price, but we don't know what they're going to do. That was precisely my experience when I got a call back earlier this week. I had sent an email to the 710 sales office at Caltrans, which is part of Right of Way, and I kind of expected to be sending this email like, you know, to the bottom of a well, like I would never hear back, right? And lo and behold, someone did actually call me back, and gave me some information, but unfortunately it kind of just confirms mostly, I mean, there's like some specific things about my house which were problematic, but these are just, you know, those are like details. The main thing she was saying was that despite, you know, these details, that she didn't expect anything to be happening anytime soon, precisely because quote unquote new regulations had to be written, right? So that even though everyone knew that there was no freeway coming and that the phase system doesn't anymore, that they still couldn't proceed on selling my house or anyone else's house because they this kind of abstract they had to work on new regulations. And she also suggested that it had to do with, like, you know, the governor's office and the fact that, you know, if Newsom wants this to happen, it'll happen, but everyone is, like, you know, trying to take care of the health crisis right now, the pandemic, and so not a whole lot is happening on the housing issue. But both of those comments also, just to point out, reinforce the idea that if we need to take action or put pressure on Caltrans, everyone I've talked to, my agent, this salesperson, has indicated that, like, it's a higher power, right? And that we really, and as I think Chris has also emphasized, that we should really try to put pressure on Sacramento, even more so than District 7, right? And I think it just kind of, you know, and obviously the lawsuit is super important in helping us determine what the rules are going to be. But everyone that I've talked to in Caltrans seems to say that, like, it's out of their hands. It's somewhere above them, right? And in keeping with that, I also tried to look up. I know a lot have been said about Jennifer Loudon, and trying to get in touch with Jennifer Loudon and send her letters and put pressure on Jennifer Loudon. And I looked her up, and she has a new job now. She works for the High Speed Rail Authority. And in her absence, there's a new acting director of right-of-way at the state level, whose name is Mark Phelan. And maybe you guys already know that, but just if anyone is feeling like they want to send an email to Mark Phelan, his email address was easy to find. I can put it in the chat.
Can you please?
Yeah. But he, you know, but the question there, it's like, is he going to do anything as like a, you know, he's doesn't have a secure, he's not going to be the permanent director. He's like an acting director, you know. I don't know what that means, before they find someone else or before they make his job permanent. But, you know, it, like, I don't know. It's just interesting. I mean, I think we all do need to know what happens with the lawsuit. But in the meantime, if there's any kind of, you know, activist pressure to be put on, I just wanted to kind of underline the fact that, like, District 7 is kind of throwing up their hands and saying, well, you know, we're waiting to find out what happens. That's all I'll say for now.
I'd like to get on stack, Angela.
Same.
Hello?
Sorry about that. Okay, so David next, and then it's Paige, and then Roberto. David?
Yeah, you're asking me to present my question?
Yes, please.
Okay, I was just wondering about the appraisal process. Are prospective buyers going to have the opportunity to hire an independent appraiser? Does anybody know the answer to that question?
Okay, so Roberto, did you want to directly respond to the first, to
Yeah,
Luis
are you-
Michael, or to David?
David, I think I addressed Michael Luis's question, but in terms of David, you can hire. You are a market purchaser
No, I'm actually hoping to get in on affordable program.
on the affordable. If you're affordable and you choose to go purchase the house as is, you should get an appraiser of your own. You know, it's totally admissible, and your information. We haven't tested these things yet, but you know, it's logical, and it should be totally acceptable and legal that you have a right to your own appraiser, and so that the price of the house can move down. Of course, in those instances, like such as yours and your question, where you're sort of moderate income and you want to choose purchasing the house fully, we would like the intervention of the city, especially as a public related entity, to help you purchase the house, and they would purchase it and 5 minutes later they would sell it to you. And the advantage to that too is that the city would, or do you live in Pasadena or South Pasadena?
Pasadena.
Pasadena. So I think that we need to push for the cities to intervene in this situation, especially Pasadena, where there's no other contract, like in South Pasadena there is. But in your situation, we need to talk to the city to get them ready to intervene and have them do a double escrow, help you out with a double escrow. And that way they get their assessors involved as well, and are able to then purchase the house and then sell it to you 5 minutes later. That's what's called a double escrow.
Yeah, that I'm not familiar with that, but in terms of the affordable program where the state holds a lien on the balance between what the buyer can afford and what the house is worth, how would that sounds like it would become very complicated if the city were to become involved.
Well, no, the city would not, the city would, could get involved in that, but that's, I think the option that I'm talking about is that if you're higher, if you're a moderate income, like if you're between 100 and 150%, you know, and you normally would have the option. Our reading of the Roberti bill is that you have the option either to buy it affordable or to purchase it outright. And to purchase it outright, you would purchase it as is. And yeah, go ahead, Carlos.
Hi. Yes, so I think that the process that Roberto's describing is, you know, a little bit more complicated because it's one that, you know, we have looked at in the past, and it, you know, it involves, you know, city agency stepping in. When really at the end of the day, what we're talking about here is, you know, you as a tenant, what rights you have as a tenant, and you know, you have the rights to first right of refusal through the conditional offer of sale. And as far as the appraisal goes, and I believe that's the question that you asked, yeah, at that point, should it be the case that, you know, you select a price, whether that's the you know, affordable sales price or the market value price, the home would likely have to be assessed. We would, based on what limited experience we have, at that point, encourage folks who can afford to get an independent appraisal done themselves to do so. That way you have the means by which you can have, you know, numbers to substantiate or validate whatever Caltrans state appraisers will demonstrate. But again, that's a bridge that I don't think anyone on this call has. That's a bridge that no one on this call has crossed yet, and we hope that, you know, a lot of us, if not most of us, do.
I just want to clarify something. When you purchase affordable, maybe they can. It's based on your income, not on the price of the house.
I understand that, but the idea is that on that basis, the state retains an interest in the property, which is the difference between what we can afford and what the house is worth.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Is that correct?
And in perpetuity. And in perpetuity.
But the assessment,
I can't buy them out if I should win the lottery. I can't buy them out.
there's nothing saying that you
can't.
Hello. No,
Yeah.
Let me just say, there is nothing stated anywhere saying that you can't pay down on what CalFHA owns. There's nothing.
However, let me just you know, jump in there. The homes were purchased to build the freeway. It was for the when the homes were purchased, the understanding was that, you know, after Roberti in 1970, after Roberti you know, bill passed, that they would be preserved for low to affordable housing. And so that's the intent. When the house is sold at a low to affordable price, in other words, the purchase price, or 25 to 30%, don't quote me on that, but up to 30% of what your monthly income is if you get it at the discounted price, then that house has to stay, in some sort of a low to affordable pool in perpetuity, which is why there are so many what are called covenants within the restrictions that allow for you to buy at the discounted price. And should you be able to, win the lottery and cash it out, the intent of the law is that house, that property, continue to stay in low to affordable hands in perpetuity, which is to say that should you qualify, and it's not clear how you're going to be qualified every year, but there's an understanding that you have to be certified every year, 20 years from now, you're no longer there. You want to will that house over to your son or daughter. They have to, fit the definition for low to affordable. So the covenants that are in place for the discounted price, that's going to be a call for each and every single one of you to make when that time comes. And, we can't, tell you what to do, but you will all have a better sense of what to do if given the option. Back to the point that, yeah.
That
Go ahead.
sounds more like an extension of the rental environment.
Yeah,
I'm
it does.
not really an owner. It's just I get to continue paying at the affordable rate. I'm not really an owner. If the house has to remain in the affordable housing pool, then how does that?
The only difference is now you'll have the full responsibility of home ownership. So if something goes wrong in the house, you have to pay to fix it.
Right.
And the thing is, to Carlos's point is, we are not clear. It has not been made, or it's not been codified. It is not clear that if you purchase affordable, that you could eventually pay Cali Chefe the remaining balance. All we know is that they own the balance. We don't know if we'll have permission to pay it down. We also know that you cannot will it to your children cannot, or family cannot inherit it unless they also qualify for low income. So those are the only two things we are actually sure of. Whether you can pay it down or not, that's something that we need to continue to pressure. We need to decide what we want, and then we need to pressure and advocate for that. And I just want to really quickly say that one of the things we need to do is get on the same page about what we want. We need to, as a community and a collective, all three cities and renters who want to be homeowners or want to continue to rent, really figure out what our vision is and articulate it and write it down. Because as we are advocating, we don't want to be advocating for conflicting things. And there's so much going on. If we are going to have we need to have a strong united front that's very clear about what we want, and we need to take it to the top, and also have communicate down, sideways. But if we don't get on the same page about what we want and what we're asking for, that's just not going to work.
That makes a lot of sense. It would seem that we would really need a focal person like Chris to help put this into the proper legal language.
Right. So we're going to go ahead. Thank you, David. What we need to do is get a hold of Chris right away and figure that focus out and see about having another meeting in a couple weeks. I'm going to get to these other people. I think it was Evan, and I'm sorry, Paige.
Yes.
Paige, and then Evan, and then Libby. I maybe you might have said what you needed to say, but then after Libby, Richard. Okay, Paige.
Hi. Thank you so much. Yeah, so I have a couple of questions actually. The first one is, I think this has been addressed before, but I just wanted to confirm. As far as if you do not qualify for the affordable or the moderate, the thing that is frustrating is that when a house is appraised, it's appraised by the neighborhood as well as by the house, if I understand it correctly, which means that if you live in South Pasadena, the appraisal for your house is going to be more than if you lived in LA somewhere. And yet the median income is based on LA County, which is largely the city of LA. So that's my first question. Has that issue been addressed? Is there any liberties or allowances at all for the fact that you live in a higher income level area and yet your median is taken from basically LA?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, but I'm not sure that. I think we should argue that. We have been arguing that before. We've been arguing that it not be that it be consistent. That there could be a house like you're describing that's dilapidated, that's in South Pasadena, that's worth more than a good house in LA, and for affordable people that doesn't seem right. And also, so the income should be based on zip code, and the medium income, and so. But these are things we're fighting for. And we should, continue fighting out those inconsistencies.
Right. Also, it's my understanding that, and this is Carlos, I know we're on Stack. I just wanted to answer or respond to a comment made. It's my understanding that, fair market value also takes into account minus repairs. And so if that it's the case that the house needs, a new foundation or plumbing or electrical work, or the walls are falling down, or, then that should be factored into the appraisal process.
Okay.
So there is that. There is that.
That's great. Thank you both. I appreciate those comments. And I think I understand from listening to this conversation today too, is that no one has been offered to purchase their home at fair market value yet, correct?
Anyone on the call,
is that
a new homeowner? Because
Yeah,
we're not over
so-
here.
No, what I mean is that Caltrans has not offered the homes to anyone yet at a fair market value, right?
No, it wouldn't be Caltrans. Well, okay.
Correct.
There's
Correct.
two situations where that could occur, where the affordable purchaser decides to go that route because they're moderate income, or because they're over the 150%. From my understanding, there's been no one over 150% that's purchased a home, because their home would have to first go to a nonprofit. If you're over 150%, you don't have first right of refusal. Yeah, your house goes directly to a nonprofit.
Wait,
That
I
nonprofit-
believe the question that Paige is asking is, has anyone that we know of bought their house yet? And I think that the answer to
Not during phase one.
Is okay, all right. And then what you meant by so when you said that if you don't qualify for the moderate, then your house is offered to a nonprofit, and then those people though are the ones that would sell it to you.
Yes, the nonprofit is then
Okay, good.
obligated to
Okay.
offer it to you.
They are. Okay,
They are.
good. So then, sorry. Okay, great. Thank you. So then my second question had to do with, I'm sorry, I lost my place. I had to do with, are there entities that are helping tenants get their finances in order to be able to purchase a house when an offer is made? In other words, has there been one company assigned, like 2 areas that would be the loan company that would help you figure out how you would get your down payment together,
Is
or
there
what
a
you would
company, a loan company to
need to
help
do?
people figure out if they can purchase their house?
Lisa,
Yeah.
can you put yourself on mute, please?
So I don't know if anybody knows the answer to that question or not.
There
that
are.
work?
There's like, okay.
There are. As a matter of fact, Caltrans is obligated to have a company come in, a nonprofit come in and consult. You need to go to, I believe, 2 meetings, which is home ownership meetings. But they do very little other than what they do there on those 2-hour meetings. And but there's also other agencies, particularly in the east side. There's a East LA Community Corporation and others that help people for free to get their FICO scores up and their financing together. Now, remember, there is Caltrans. Caltrans is providing, I lost my train of thought.
That's
Well,
okay.
it's in
That's
keeping
it.
with that. Where I think that the answer to your question is that we are working with, in terms of official capacity, no, we haven't yet had the opportunity to do that, just because no houses have been sold beyond, the phase one process that, ended up in litigation, and that's where that's at now. But there
Okay.
will be a moment where, the question that you raise is of value, in that, folks will likely have to get their credit scores up. Folks will have to understand what their finances are. Folks will have to apply for loans and go through that. And so Caltrans does provide, they're obligated to provide, tenants who want to make an offer to purchase their homes at the time where, the conditional offer of sale goes to people. A clinic that allows for people to understand how to go about doing that. We hope that when the time comes for that, we're well organized and organized, or rather organized well enough to provide folks with options in as far as resources that they can use to help them better understand that process. But at this point, I can't say, personally speaking, that I know of any.
Maybe
Can
what
I
we could,
also
All
just,
right.
oh, I wanted to just speak to something you said earlier about whether, as a market rate renter, you are not, you're fourth in line, right? So it goes, so let's say the HRE, the nonprofit, purchased the property. They are not bound to the same exact like, it's not clear what their boundaries and obligations are. So they could, the as is price doesn't necessarily materialize in that transaction. So if your house is worth, let's say market rate worth $1 million, and as is, if you were buying it for Caltrans, you could negotiate it down to, let's say, 300 because of all the repairs that need to be made. There's nothing that says that could potentially happen with the HRE. That there's not a lot of clarity around what their obligations are. They could say you have to buy it for $1 million, and if you say no, then they own the property and you have to move. So I just want to reiterate that there is not clarity around what happens for market rate renters if the HRE acquires the property before you do. It just says they have to offer it to you for sale. It doesn't say what that process looks like or what rights you have. So I just want to reiterate once again, as we think about advocating for what we want, we should flesh that out and say what we should think, especially if they're in the position to be rewriting regulations. We should dictate what that process should be, and we should advocate for one that's fair and just for us, because right now it's not clear.
yeah,
Thank you.
this
Thanks,
may,
Vivi.
this may be a good opportunity as well. And I'm going to mention here, what I was going to mention before. Their regulations as they stand, before Caltrans tried to charge the inflated price, as they were passed in 2016 for the beginnings of the sales. You have to understand that Caltrans violated their own regulation by trying to charge people the inflated price. Their regulations as they stood were not perfect, but they were much better. And so but it's also an opportunity right now. And also, let me just back up a little bit. If Caltrans moves to rewrite the regulations, they have to go through at least a year's process of consulting with the community. If they do that, and we have no choice because they chose, as the agency, they chose to write up new regulations, they have to take it through the APA process, which includes consulting with the community. Then we have an opportunity to then call for all these changes as well. However, we need to discuss whether we want that to happen, because it could be between a year and 2 years before, especially because we're so more well informed today. We're going to have a lot more to say as to what those regulations should look like, and so it may take a little longer. So that's just something that I want to throw out so we can think about, or we can push Caltrans to move to the default regulations that were passed in 2016, which do not include the inflated price. They include the Roberti bill price, and which are not perfect, but which are much better than what they were trying to do.
Okay, thank you for that. So on stack, we have Evan, Libby, Richard, Jenny had some questions, Michelle, and then Lisa. So what time is it? It is 10:53. We have about an hour. So if you could have your comments and questions be concise, and for those who are answering, please try to also be brief so we could get through everyone's concerns. So Evan?
I'll be quick. Thank you very much. My biggest concern is just the personal frustration of continuing to have to pay rent when we're in the process of buying. I'm ready to buy personally, and I want to move forward, and I'm tired of paying rent when I'd rather be paying my mortgage. So anything, I love what we're talking about with that. And then to piggyback on what Libby was mentioning, if there's a way that we can all work collectively as a community, getting our information together, and then if we need to email Mark, if we need to go towards Newsom, if we need to go through the city of Pasadena or South Pasadena, wherever you are, we can do that collectively. So I sent Libby, I sent you my email, and I sent the host my email as well to include me on any discussion moving forward with that. And if we can get like a format letter that kind of hits all these marks that we want, what we're looking for, to be able to send to Mark and Newsom in the city, that would be great.
Thank you. I
Okay.
appreciate it,
Thank
Evan.
you,
And I just
Evan.
wanted to respond really. Oh, can you hear me or no?
Yeah.
Yes, go ahead,
I just
Libby.
wanted to respond very briefly. Thank you, Evan. And I think what it's going to take is for us to have a strategy session where we work out all these details, even before we write a letter, and think about all the interests that are involved. And then we could formulate a letter, and we need an advocacy plan of action of how we're going to approach this and who's going to do what. So I would recommend that we do like work group, folks representing the different interests. So market rate renters, affordable renters, moderate, and from the 3 different cities. And so if thank you, Evan, for volunteering. If we have other people that are willing to be part of that, that would be great.
Yeah, and I'm more than happy to help meet, assist, whatever, lead as much as I can, whatever needs to happen. Let's do this together.
Great, thank you for that. Libby, can we go ahead and move forward with Richard?
Yeah, I do want to make a comment though at some point, if I can.
Yes, okay, Richard?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I just want to see if my assumption is right now. That from what Roberto said, that they're no longer going ahead with that inflation index thing. But they haven't said what they're going to do. They need to come up with new regulations. So the current situation is that everybody is just in limbo until Caltrans decides to act, and Caltrans is saying, we're waiting for the governor. Too busy because of COVID. Is that basically it?
Well, Roberto, I mean, I have an opinion over that, Richard, and I can share it with you.
There's no official. I'm sorry, there's an echo. But there's what is going on? Angela, let me see. Okay, it stopped. All right, so there's no official position from Caltrans. The word we're getting, like from Tim, from that Mark Phelan, is that Caltrans is trying to will be figuring out regulations. However, there's also we need to discuss whether we want to push for Caltrans just to readopt the default regulations that they had in 2016. Because, why should they redo the regulations if the only thing that was wrong with that it wasn't with the regulations, it was with them violating the regulations. In the regulations that they had in 2016, they had the Roberti bill price in there. They had everything in there. If they do the regulations again, I'm thinking that they're got something up their sleeve, and maybe they're working with a congressperson to try to change the Roberti bill. And so what I would suggest is that, that we try to find out, like Libby is suggesting, let's form this group, let's do the research, let's call up the legislators and find out, let's find out from inside people in terms of people that we talk to from Caltrans, what their intentions are, and if and why they're not adopting or readopting or just using the default regulations. They violated the regulations. We did not sue against the regulations. We sued them for violating the regulations. So that's the thing before us.
Thanks, Richard. This is Carlos. I just wanted to chime in on that and say, Tim, thank you for providing us with that information. I think, we have been very curious about where Caltrans is at in the process. I believe, I can't say, maybe I speak but I believe that Caltrans has been allowed to exist in a space where they can do whatever they want because they haven't received pressure from us as tenants. And I think that I'm guilty of this. I don't want to, assume that, you all have taken the same route that I have, which is to say, don't say anything, don't rock the boat, just keep it quiet, and let's let Caltrans figure it out, and eventually they'll sell us a house. But that hasn't happened, and that's not going to happen. And they keep changing the rules, right? They keep changing the end zone, and they keep moving it forward at their discretion. And so to hear about their proposed or the response that they're giving out, where they're proposing new regulations, right? It's disheartening because there's no reason why new regulations should be created. That's going to take a year, 2 years, 3 years, who knows what. They are in a position now where they're obligated to sell. Evan brings up an excellent point. Libby reinforces it. And as far as saying, how do we, everybody on this call, begin to put pressure on Caltrans to hold them accountable? Now, Roberto and Lib, I think we had some ideas about that. We were, prepared to, act in concert, with folks within this group who were willing to, and this is something that's important, and maybe we can talk about it later, put something in writing, right? Because we've noticed that Caltrans will respond to things in writing. They'd rather do it by the phone. They'd rather, not put it in writing, but, we need to have a way by which we can put it in writing. So anyways, I defer. Excuse me.
Is that all you have, Richard? Are you good, Richard? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on. Thank you. Jenny? Jenny, you had some questions? We'll come back to you, Jenny. Michelle?
Hi, can somebody give me a brief description of what 150% is?
150% of the median county income. In other words, I think it's the median county income is at about $50,000. If you're by yourself,
For a family of,
for as an individual, and it goes up about, I think it goes up about $5,000 per for every additional individual in your household. I'm not sure about that. But I think it's an estimate. So like the 150% means that you would 50% of 50,000 is 25. So if you're an individual and you earn more than $75,000 per year, you're over the 150%. As an individual.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. Next is Lisa.
Hi, it's not really any kind of question. Well, it is. I have a question that I'm not quite understanding now all these complicated ways. I thought it was straight cut, reverting bill, you know, or going that route. But now it seems like a lot more issues in there. And also, it was difficult to get the voice, and Jenny could not answer you because she said she couldn't get the sound. Here's Jenny giving a
Right.
question or
Yes. Okay. So I saw Paige had a question, and then I'll ask Jenny's questions after Paige.
Well, can you, did Jenny finally get, know how to turn on the sound?
no, she's on listening and looking, just like I am, and I had a difficult time to get the sound. And you go in and out of the picture.
Okay, I'll ask her questions for her. So, how about we go to Paige really quick while I review Jenny's questions?
Well,
Paige?
my question was not answered.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Lisa?
So, according to what I had understood before, it was going to be Roberti bill, which states goes according to what the value of the house was, what Caltrans bought it as, and then also according to our income. But now it sounds like there's a lot more issues that it's not clarified. And I agree with the other man, I forgot his name, I think it was Stan, that we should collectively work together and then come up with something better. So the question was, is it through Roberti bill or is it not?
At the moment it is, but they're going to create new regulations if we let them. Question for us will be, do we want to allow that to happen, wait a year, 2 years, 3 years, participate in the process, have a say over that, or not, and just make demands of where things are at right now and say, you already have the rules. You don't need to create new rules.
Right.
That's a good question. Listen, Michelle, you asked a question about income guidelines. You can Google, HUD income guidelines.
I know,
I'm looking.
I know where I am in the income. My question was, you answered it, that we should force them to get going on the sales according to what they had originally said, not with all these other issues in there.
But that depends on, I agree with you, Lisa. I'm right there 100% with you, but it really depends on the group. I think that you'll find different, now I'm not polling the group, but it's something to consider, guys, and think about, right? Do we say, no, the time is now? Or do we say, well, you have till 2024, when you eliminated the 710 from the books in Sacramento, the state legislature gave until 2024 to dispose of the houses. So we can wait till then, or we can do it now.
We might be dead by then.
No. Yeah, I hear you.
See, the
Oh,
regulations, the regulations are based on the Roberti bill as is right now. If the Roberti bill is changed, then Caltrans will say we need to change the regulations. One thing that would favor them in terms of delaying the process and trying to work out a change of the Roberti bill would be for them to try to write up new regulations when they're not needed. So they may be working with a senator or a congressperson that is listening to them, and maybe they have a quid pro quo, and they may be thinking they're going to change the Roberti bill and then change the regulations accordingly.
Okay, so we're gonna move on. Oh wait, Lisa, are you talking? Can you unmute yourself? What were you saying?
okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. This is all new for us. Okay, so, oh God. So what you're saying is that Roberti bill has the as-is program, and if we go forward in our demand and how we want it without inflation and all this other rigmarole, they will take it to the legislature, and then we're starting from square one. Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that if we force them to act on the same regulations, now, it would probably be better, because if we give them more time, they will say they might be working with a senator or a congressman in the area, which may be interested in doing something for them if they do something for the senator or congressman. And they may change the Roberti bill. And then, of course, if they change the Roberti bill, you have to change the regulations.
Okay, so then we
So right
should,
now, it'd be best if we force them to
right.
to do the sales now under the current regulations. No need to change the regulations.
Yes, okay, I'm now clear and I agree.
Okay, great. So we're gonna move on to Paige. She had a couple questions, and then I'll present Jenny's questions after Paige, and I believe Hugo is next.
Hi, thank you. It's just a really quick question, I hope, but just wondered if anyone has found out if, I know at one point we talked about the rents that we have already paid to Caltrans over the years, that those be allowed to go toward down payment should you be able to buy your home or in some way offset the price. Has there been any progress with that at all?
No, no, that's not included in the Roberti bill as far as I know. And our reading, I don't know if Libby and Carlos and others have seen that anywhere. We have heard that from our agents for years, that was a possibility. And we think that it's a just thing, that it should have been done. But the Roberti bill does not cover that, and neither does the regulations.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so for Jenny, she had said, I have an appraisal question. I'm in El Sereno, and are they going to use comparables in Alhambra that is unfair to us? Alhambra has better school district and more.
Yeah, that's why, okay, go ahead, Carlos.
Go right ahead.
What's
You're
that?
breaking up.
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Roberto.
Yeah, they have done that in the past when they did the comparables for the rents, and we've disagreed with that, and we vehemently have countered that. But there's no, if you are purchasing, let's say for instance at the over 150%, remember that a nonprofit has to purchase first, and that the fight with that with those comparables is going to be with a nonprofit. That's why I generally think that we should prioritize the cities to intervene and to be involved and to take advantage of what's called a double escrow, which Caltrans is totally open to. So there's, the double escrow where the city would buy first and then 5 minutes later sell it to the tenant. So buy it from the nonprofit and then sell it to the tenant. And so therefore the assessments the city makes are going to be sharper and act as an advocacy for the tenant.
Okay, she had one more question. What are the types of purchasing available? Market program and affordable program. Is there another? I don't know what they mean.
Libby, you want to explain that one? Okay.
Well,
so, Carlos, you want to go?
I'm looking at the actual information that Caltrans has up on their website. And again, it's a good resource. the dot.ca.gov website. You can just type in, Caltrans property sales process, and you'll be referred to the website, and you can click on the link. And in that, they actually provide you with a list of what they call buyers' priorities offered for sale per regulations from 2016, and so on and so forth. And in it, you can see that they only identify the appraised fair market value price, the affordable price, and then something called reasonable price. All of those, I would imagine, and then of course they also identify auction price, which is the seventh, priority in terms of buyers. Most of us who are on this call would fall into the number 2 or number 3 category. Remember, the number 1 category is a myth. I don't think that you guys have ever heard of someone who sold the house 40 years ago, 50 years ago, and has been renting from Caltrans for 40, 50 years. I've never heard of that. But if there is someone who fits that profile, then that's the first category of buyer. All of us are probably number 2 or number 3. So as far as we can tell, based on their information, there are 4 types of categories that they're identifying. Again, that's appraised fair market, affordable, reasonable, and auction.
Okay. So hope that answers your question, Jenny. Oh, did someone want to say something?
It's Marisha. He just mentioned someone renting for 40 years. That would be me. So would I be in the first category then?
Only if you were the former owner of the house, and at some point the Department of Transportation approached you 40, 50 years ago and said, we want to buy this house from you. And then you said, okay. Yeah, it's
I got you. Okay.
Former owner. So it's tenant, former owner. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm just renting for 40 years. So.
Yeah, and I think someone on the call mentioned something about, I think Evan mentioned, it's not fair. We're paying rent. That's money we can use towards, a mortgage. And so every case is going to be different. But, we should all really take into account that everyone on this call continues to pay rent in perpetuity to an agency that's supposed to sell you the house. And they're not going to do it because no one's making them. And I think it's our responsibility, all of us on this call, to start taking the steps necessary to put in writing. Why aren't you selling me the house? You need to sell me the house. A comprehensive or an organized approach could be one that we construct. Before the call's over, we have some ideas, we have some thoughts. I think before we got on this call, we had at United Caltrans Tenant put together the semblances of a letter that touched on all the points that we wanted to get in writing to all the state officials that make over these things, to put them on notice and let them know that we want in writing from them their position, so they can tell us if they are in fact working on regulations. What are they? We're stakeholders. We should have a say. And if they're not, why are they doing? This process should have started in January. Thanks.
And also, if there was a way to have a concerted letter writing campaign where we just didn't write one, but we followed it up and then we followed it up, and because it's that drip, drip, drip. One letter may not make an effect, but if we start making some waves and getting some local, more letters, in other words, I don't know how that would work, but they tend not to, one letter they'll throw in the trash, but they might not throw 6 to 8 letters,
Correct. And so this is an ongoing conversation that we're having, that beyond this call, I hope that, some folks do take the time to consider.
Well, I would write but we need to know who to write to and what we're going to write so that we're all saying the same thing. We're all on the same page, and individual letters help, and then maybe a group letter.
Well, Roberto, Libby, I think we talked about this, and I defer to you guys, on and Angela and Lisa. We've talked about this, and we,
I mean, I've written to the governor in the past, and that was just before that entity we were suing that other entity along with Caltrans. And that letter, we sent letters about how unfair that was, and then they dropped out. So I'm wondering if our letter didn't help in that regard.
So, I don't want to overstep my boundaries here, but I will say that for those folks who we do have emails for, we can definitely share, electronically, potential letters that should get sent.
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind, everybody, that I think, you know, for everyone on the call, as you guys know, these things move slowly. So it's not like as if you petition Caltrans, you know, what is it, Monday, you know, June 22nd, they're going to respond Tuesday, June 23rd. That's not the
No.
case. It's the case that if you petition Monday, June 22nd, you know, they're not going to respond to you until when they respond to you. And even then, you know, they'll defer, and the bureaucracy is what it is. And, you know, we can initiate a concerted effort on the part of tenants, headed by
I think
tenants.
the only way this is going to move forward is suddenly if our interests suddenly dovetail with theirs in some weird way, and then they'll move. But they have to, they're going to ask that age-old question, what's in it for me? And so we have to determine what it is they need and focus on what they need and in our request so that we can show them what's in it for them in a way. Do you know what I mean? There's no motivation otherwise for them. We have to find out what it is they need internally. I mean, they may be getting pressure from people above them in Sacramento to get this thing done. I thought that was the case, but so we could focus on that, you know, that this would resolve their issue as well. We have to show them, you know, salesmen always say with them, what's in it for me? And we need to show them what's in it for them too.
That sounds like a good idea. I think I want to remind people that UCT meets every Friday. I think what we've been doing since COVID is that we've been meeting on the phone, but if we could get everyone used to meeting on Zoom, I'm sure we could work something out where everyone, people who are interested can actually participate and help us out in getting a focus.
Okay, well, I do editing, so I could assist in that way. I mean, I've done editing for Huffington Post and so on. So I can do something where I can help people with editing letters and making sure it's a concerted effort.
Thank you so much. We're gonna move on. Hugo, and then I'm gonna present Luis Michael's some of his questions, and then Linda Crossan. Hugo?
Hi, everybody. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, does anybody, or is anybody aware of, in terms of Caltrans procedures, where, as my understanding, you the home this year, 2020, on 19's income. But if, let's say, for example, in the case of, it doesn't matter which year, but whenever they offer you the home, if you retired that year, you're no longer making full year's income that you did the previous year, which is the basis for the offer or consideration of where you fall. Are you able to say your income is different than, say, 2019, if they offer in 2020? Can you say, well, I'm no longer, it shouldn't be based on 2019? Can you be aware of anything like that?
Hey, this is Carlos, and let me respond to that. But also, someone asked to on the chat option. Someone asked if we could put the income limits to, you know, understand the numbers. So it's posted on the chat. You guys can just click on that link, and that should take you to the HUD income guidelines for 2019. And they do change every year, so it's important to understand those. So here's what I know about what you're asking, is that Caltrans has to follow the letter of the law, and as far as offering you the house, should you qualify based on, you know, your income from the previous year, right? And so based on your income from, you know, the taxes that you filed last year, or what you can demonstrate in terms of taxes, then they'll follow that as a blueprint. I think that the question that you're asking is more one around financing. That's a whole, different animal. And as far as, you know, if your income has changed at the point at which, you know, you're offered the house based on the guidelines that they got to follow from last year's taxes, which is what they got to go on in order to understand how much you were making. But at that point now, you have to get the financing. And so,
I guess, well, let me clarify it. I guess what I'm asking is then, because they look at your income to determine whether you're affordable or, you know, in the other category. So maybe if your income's lower, they offer it to you for less. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
You'll have the option. You'll have the option to take it at one of two prices at the point where they make it available to you.
Okay, I just haven't heard anything about that. You know what I mean?
I think what Hugo is saying is, if your income changes on the year of purchase, are they going to consider that into the formula on whether you're eligible for affordable or not? What are they going to base it on? Last year's income or this year's situation, new situation? And as far as I know, they have to consider your current situation more than the last year's income. But we need
Okay,
to.
but they won't know that.
For rental purposes.
I'm sorry, Roberto. They're gonna, like, say Caltrans, you know, if they were to offer a home right now, just say they're only gonna, you know, ask you for, or they're gonna base it on last year's. So then you'd have to then provide them a current status, some verification to
exactly.
call. I'm just wondering, is there a process for that?
Well,
but I don't know. It just sounds like people haven't seen that.
Right. Well, you know, they did open up. We did put out a letter, and I think what you're asking is if there has been a change to, you know, your employment status and or your income status, right? You know, how can you communicate that to Caltrans? We would encourage folks to do that right away, just because back in was it May, Roberto? I think when the actually in March, when the quarantine first started, you know, we noticed that there wasn't anything really in the books with regards to folks who couldn't pay rent. And so we put together a letter and sent that out to Caltrans asking for some sort of rent relief for folks who, you know, could make rent payments in May, June, and beyond. And, you know, Caltrans, to our surprise, immediately responded and said, hey, by the way, we're reopening up the affordable rent program. And if your income status has changed, notify us of that, apply for the program, we'll help you through it. And so for anyone who's on this call, who's a tenant, right, who is at, you know, market, if your income status has changed and you would like, you know, to apply for the affordable rent program, we encourage that you do that. That way you signal to Caltrans that, you know, you need a rent reduction, that your income has changed. And if you can demonstrate that, then that's one quick fix to the reality of all as renters.
I'm gonna ask Marisha if she can remember, and I vaguely remember, and Angela, because they're both plaintiffs on the lawsuit, and they've both been offered letters. When you applied, I remember Angela had to present proof of current income, and as well as last year's income taxes. I think they had to go. Angela had to go 2 years back. And then proof of current income. So they are definitely required to consider your current situation in the qualification process.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Well, I think that answers. And then I just had two quick observations. They're not really questions. And there was a mention about, like, say, possibly if the cities are able to, say the houses, if you fell into, or like, say in the case of the question about Pasadena, and South Pasadena, like South Pasadena has apparently the city entity handling, I think, city housing department now, that, or something like that they created, that is handling those certain aspects of sales. And I heard some comment about, like, possibly that, say, if that happened in the city of LA or in Pasadena, that they would make, they would look after the interests of the tenants. And I'm thinking, personally, I think whenever we deal with any entity, and I don't care if it's a nonprofit or a city entity, we should have no confidence that they are going to look after our interests, that we have to fully articulate what we want. I'm not saying we'll get everything, but we need to be vigilant with whoever ends up handling and disposing of surplus property, because we can't trust anybody really unless we let them know what we want. So I just think we just need to be vigilant about that. And then just the last point is that there was some brief mention about some items that are out, not necessarily part of Roberti bill, and some other item, and those same items that might not fall within Department of Transportation regulations. And I know that UCT through the years has compiled a number of considerations that have been vetted with the community that fall outside of that box, and I think we should not hesitate to resurrect those kind of things and other things that are, even if they fall outside of Department of Transportation regulations or Roberti bill, and articulate those as the community's interests.
Right.
And that's it.
Just in response to your first suggestion and caveat concerning city public related entities, or public offices, I think you're right. And nonprofits, I absolutely think you're right. What I was referring to is that if you have a double escrow situation, you have a situation where the city buys first. The city could, if we are pushing them, could advocate for a lower price because they're buying it first. And so the purchase, as far as Caltrans goes, is with them. What they do after 3 minutes after is not a Caltrans concern. So if they purchase it, they might want to go for the lowest possible as is price, or the lowest price possible in general.
Okay. Does that answer your question, Miguel? Okay, we're gonna move on. Lisa had her hand up, and then Linda, and then Brian, and then
All
David.
right.
Lisa? Okay, we're gonna move on to Linda. Linda? Linda, are you there?
She needs to take herself out of mute first.
Okay, we'll come back to Lisa. Let me unmute you, Lisa. Or I think you could, if you can unmute yourself. There you go, Lisa.
I did. Okay, I have a tenant here with me that has a question. Hold on. She says that she is one of the first original renters, and she would like to know if all those years of paying, I think it kind of was mentioned earlier, is going to be considered into the reverting bill style of buying, because she was told by her agent years ago that it would be. And I hear that from a lot of seniors that have been here more than 30. And that goes to grandma as well. She's been here now this many or 40 years. And Darlene Diaz, being that she's one and paying all this money, she's been paying rent, and that we're going to continue to pay rent until, like Carlos says, we push them to start the sale. So her question is, are they going to consider that all that time she's been here, all the rent she's already paid?
I'll take a crack at that. Like I said, the Roberti bill does not include that. The regulations don't include that. But like Hugo just said, what's right is right. We were promised that this is not a regular real estate agency that took these houses. The Roberti bill has that type of spirit of restoring the community and alleviating some of the damages that they done to these communities. So, you know, in some ways, reparations could include the logic. It's very logical, morally correct for them to have considered rents, especially for tenants that have been there 40 years. Now they're in their 80s and 90s or 70s. And so it doesn't mean that we should stop demanding it and saying that this is the right thing to do. It's like what Hugo just said is correct. We have to continue demanding things that may not even be in the books if they're correct.
Okay, so basically, like, the lady from said we need to write letters, and she could edit our letters. So, like, could you give us her contact number if she's willing?
Oh, yeah,
Marisha,
sure.
can you put your,
I don't know how to do that. I'm on the phone. I'm not on.
you can go to chat. I think you can go to chat by hitting the three little buttons and the chat.
I'm calling in, so I'm not on Zoom.
Yeah, you're on the phone. So am I. And so if you
Okay.
just tap on the phone,
Yeah.
and you see these three little buttons on the right side bottom, three little dots.
No, nope, nothing there. I have an
Nothing there?
iPhone. No.
Yeah, you got to tap on the iPhone first. You got to tap on the black screen. And
Marisha, maybe you could give me your phone number and I'll put it in the chat.
Or email.
Put it in an email, or just put it
Sure,
on.
I just send it to you guys and then you'll
Yes.
distribute it. No. I mean, I could just give it to you on the phone if you want it.
Sure.
Can I give her my phone number, and then that would help me get to the other tenants that have been here 40 years.
So Lisa.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
My phone number is 626.
Yeah.
233. 233 1245.
Okay, I'll call you with my stuff.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The next person is Linda. Linda.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, so hi, I'm really glad to be back in these meetings and to hear you, even though I now am an owner with all the pitfalls that come with it, being an ex-Caltrans tenant. But at any rate, I just want to make a couple comments. First of all, I really love the ideas that you all have. I think that Libby's idea of getting together a draft of what you all want, your demands, is really important, you know. And second of all, I was originally part of the lawsuit. I dropped out because the judge made it very clear that my particular demand, which was to be able to have my daughter inherit my house when I die under the regulations that I bought the house under, that he was not going to allow that was not allowed. So my interest was merely in that. But what I know is that there are people around here who have bought the house under the 30-year covenant and who are probably already past that now, and people who have bought it before under the South Pasadena City arrangement years ago. And I would like to ask them, or I don't know if you know, whether they are also under the restriction about inheritance. Because as I understand it, the 30-year covenant people are not under that restriction. So I would be interested clearly as a separate issue, to go ahead to find out about that. And other than that, I think all the ideas are really good. The issue that somebody just recently brought up, that, you know, the spirit of Caltrans, of this, of the Roberti bill, is one of helping the community and helping the renters and helping people of low income to have housing. I think in the current atmosphere, that housing is such a an important issue, and the cities are starting to try to deal with them by allocating money and so forth. I wonder if we couldn't somehow get in touch with the activists in that area, and put the Caltrans situation to them, because clearly what Caltrans wants to do is not in the spirit of helping renters. They're trying to either do something to bureaucratically help themselves, or to get in a position where they don't have, it's obvious they don't want to have to deal with the renters anymore. They don't want to have to deal with the Roberti bill and the restrictions. They want more latitude to do something. And that's why they want new regulations. So I totally agree that we should do everything, or that everything should be done to keep them from going to new regulations. And so I guess I'm getting a little confused here, but basically I would say that getting our demands together and trying to find our friends and trying to find out who can help us in the legislative area, and to hook into this housing dilemma that the whole state finds itself in, and will find itself in more as the depression even hits greater extent, so that we can get some advantage out of that. And other than that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Okay, so we keep hearing that everyone's is in agreement to get together. Let me mute Linda. Everyone is willing to get together, or try to attempt to through via Zoom, and pressure Caltrans by way of letter, and focusing our energy on that. So the next one is Brian. Brian had a couple of concerns and questions. Let me unmute you, Brian.
I'm here. Hey, yeah, I just had another, just a quick question. Is the rents, have they been formally frozen at the moment?
Yes. Okay. I'll address that. What happened was that the rents haven't, as far as we know, have not been frozen. Although, if you have information concerning that, we'd really appreciate it. What we do know is that Portantino, we wrote a letter to Christie and Portantino concerning whether the law AB 1482 applied to the tenants, the Caltrans tenants. And as you recall, 1482 is a bill that limited rent hikes to 5%. And it was applicable only to multifamily units, with the exception of a corporation owning a bunch of houses, or a real estate agency owning a bunch of houses. So then the question was, is the state of California a corporation? And sure enough, it's an incorporated nonprofit, but it's incorporated. It's a corporation, it's a body. It's a nonprofit body. And according to Portantino's lawyers, legislative lawyers, they decided that yes, or their opinion was that yes, the Caltrans homes, or any state homes owned by Caltrans, are subject to 1482 caps. So you're talking 5%. So many people, if you're getting a 10% raise yearly, you're no longer going to get that. You're going to get at the maximum 5%. So there's a little bit of relief there. Not what we should be getting, but that's a little bit. So the raises from here on won't be more than 5%.
And that's per year? Per year. Yeah. And then another question I had in the chat, and this is for you, Roberto. You were talking about the double escrow and the incentive that the city would have, and I didn't understand, why would the city have an incentive to keep the price low? Because if they keep it high, that's the value of the home, which then the taxes would be assessed on. Then the city would get those monies. So I don't know why the city would have an incentive to keep the price low.
Yeah, well, that's assuming a couple of things. One is assuming that the city would understand that low-income folks would need help to keep the price low, or even the folks that are purchasing right now. Like we mentioned before, the county rates and income stats are not what they should be. So that's out of whack with reality. And so we're asking, there are people in middle income and higher middle income situations that cannot afford to buy a house. And so we would have to impress the city that is going on, and we would have to push the city to be an advocate for its residents and get the best price possible for the house.
Okay.
You're right that their natural motivation would be to get the most out of things, but we would have to push them in the other direction.
Gotcha. And then I just want to echo my confidence behind the whole idea about that the income levels that we are held to, the 150%, we should fight for city by city, because I'm in Pasadena, and it's going to be a higher, and as well as South Pasadena, it's going to be a much higher de minimis on the 150%. So we would fight for each city to have that gauge set for each city.
Yeah, there should be higher limits. There should be at least like maybe 200%.
Can't they take the Pasadena median income and just do the 150 from that?
What we should really fight for is to take all three cities collective. It's reflective of society, and tell them to take the higher of all three, period, for everyone.
Great.
Because we have people like myself who live in El Sereno. I will never meet the 150%. So that means if they go city by city, it actually hurts me, because we have a much lower income level in El Sereno.
I agree, Libby. I totally agree.
Okay. Is that all, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay, great. We have David, and then we have Libby.
Okay, I was just curious about concerning taxes. If we get in on an affordable purchase and taxes are assessed in terms of market value, who pays the taxes?
There was a bill. There is a bill that passed, and I can't remember the number of the bill right now, but I think it was 200. We brought that to the attention of Portantino immediately. Your taxes will be based on the purchaser's price. So if you're buying the house at $30,000, your taxes will be based on $30,000. That's been legislated already.
Is there a bill you can refer to specifically?
I believe it's SB 200. It's one of Portantino's bills. But I'll try to get that to you. But if you can,
thanks. I'll look it up.
Okay, good.
Okay, Libby.
Sorry, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. So I don't know what's been said so far, because I had to get off for a little bit, but I just want to say, in terms of strategy, we know that you know, most of the houses are in El Sereno, and Portantino has been taking the lead on a lot of this Caltrans stuff for a while. Politically, the problem is that now Durazo, who's been elected official for Los Angeles and represents El Sereno, is trying to muscle and take over as sort of the dominating force in advocacy for what happens to these houses. And we already know that her vision is to knock down a lot of the homes and create stackable multifamily units, especially in Los Angeles. And a lot of what she's going to do, in my opinion, unqualified opinion, is going to affect the entire corridor. And so what we need to do is really organize, like I've said, collectively. The other thing is, for the city of Pasadena and for the city of South Pasadena, the cities have already declared themselves as HREs with Caltrans. That's a process that they went through. The city of Los Angeles has not done that yet. So we need support on our end. We've been advocating with South Pass and with other cities. We need support from the corridor to make sure that our city of Los Angeles as an accepted HRE, and it's a matter of them, like South Pasadena, what the city council did is do a resolution, submit that to Caltrans. We need our city, which is a little bit more complicated in LA. There's a lot more council members, it's a lot more political, and we need them to deem themselves HRE so that they have the opportunity to help us through the double escrow purchase our home. So that's something we need the community support with. The other thing is that in terms of the home sales, just like Roberto said earlier, there are already regulations in place. They have zero excuse other than their regrouping to re-strategize. They have zero excuse for selling the homes. Nothing other than their own greed is preventing them from moving forward with the home sales. Nothing. They have existing regulations, and I believe that we should hold them to them, and we should get collective action to pressure it. And if anything's, because do we want things to change? Potentially, but even under current circumstances, there's a way that we could, even the 150 median income, once again, by city and all that, it's not super clear. These things are not codified in black and white for a reason. So then there's room to politically advocate that those things be clarified and that they be, or that the practice be so that they do something that is beneficial for the entire corridor. We can work with the existing regulations, but we need to be able to organize to pressure them to do that and to move them in the direction that we need them to go. That's going to be in the interest of all of our residents, not just some people. And the other thing I wanted to say is, I know somebody mentioned earlier, let's get Chris to help. I think Chris helping is a great idea, but we also have to remember that Chris is a lawyer and he gets paid to do that work. So if he's not getting paid, how are we? I think that collectively as a group, we have the ability and the power to do some of this work that we are hoping Chris can do. I believe that Chris is more open to working with us if we write everything, put it together.
You cut out, Libby.
We agree with you though, or at least I do. Let us know when you come back. Is there anyone else who would like? Oh, Libby's coming back. Libby,
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Now we can.
Hello?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I think I was cut off. I was just gonna say is that Chris is, I think, more likely to help us if we put some.
You cut out again.
By Caltrans as surplus in order for them to sell. Once they're deemed by Caltrans as surplus, they have to sell them. They're under legal obligation. If they don't, then we have grounds to sue them. But we need to make sure that they go through the process.
You're cutting out.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me? In my mind, I see a few pieces of action. Number one, we need to collectively organize around these different issues. We need to get the city of LA to deem themselves the HRE for the LA folks. We need to make sure that we hold Caltrans to press them on the existing regulations so that our Congress people don't conspire with them to rewrite the regulations in their favor and in their own political interests. And then number three, we need to make sure that Caltrans actually deems these homes as surplus, Because once they do, then we have a legal standing. If we send them a letter for people, like somebody mentioned earlier, they're ready to buy their house tomorrow. If they deem these houses surplus, then what happens is if we send them a letter and say, well, I'm ready to buy my house, and they don't offer it to you for sale, you actually have a legal grounds to stand on in order to sue them. But if they don't, quote unquote, even though the freeway's dead, everything's dead, if they don't, quote unquote, deem these surplus, they can keep us in limbo as long as they want. So in my mind, those are the three fronts in terms of advocacy that I see. One, get LA to be the HRE and deem themselves through a resolution. Two, make sure that we actually get hold them to the existing regulations so they don't rewrite them underneath our feet without our interest. And three, get the homes, all of them in the 710 corridor deemed surplus, because then we could have legal standing to do a class action suit if they don't sell us the homes.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good, Libby. How does everyone else feel about that? I see one thumbs up. Lorraine, you had a question, or is it a thumbs up? Let me unmute you. I can't unmute you. Okay. Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry, Lorraine. Something's going on with the mute. So I see a couple of thumbs up. If anyone has anything to respond to that, you could write in the chat, or you could say stack. I'm just looking at the time right now. It's 11:54. Lisa Almeda had her hand up, so we'll go to Lisa, and then we might have to wrap things up.
I guess a comment.
Lisa? You're gonna have to unmute yourself. Okay. Yes.
Okay. Like I said, I have some seniors here with me, tenants. And so it's kind of difficult for them to understand. I know I go to the meetings regularly, and even now, right now, I am forgetting a lot of the things that we had talked about. So a lot of the things I'm not getting clear, nor are these people here with me. So my suggestion is that we hold some type of workshops to help tenants to find out where they stand in purchasing. And they're really interested to know that about leaving the homes to, was it your their grandchildren? And what about if they have them on contract? Doesn't that mean that the house is left to them if they're on the contract? My understanding was the house should be left to your heirs if they are of low income.
Roberto or Carlos? Roberto, you're on mute. Unmute.
But what's Lisa is a
Okay, the first part was about holding workshops, especially for the seniors that I have. The seniors that I have here are not understanding where they stand, where they fit in the purchasing. So we need workshops for several people.
okay.
And then the second part of that was, one has her grandchildren on contract, so wouldn't the house be left to the grandchildren? And then my question is, how would, if our house is not left to our heirs, how do we get it left to our heirs? Just by letters? Or do we put them on contract like this other lady here did with hers?
And so by contract, you mean that their name is on the lease?
Right.
Okay, yeah, no, I think that again, it goes right back to the first point that you raised and the question that you raised, which is, look, there's a lot of folks who are seniors who need help understanding this process. If you can, please do compile a list of those folks. And, you know, when the
Okay.
time comes and we put together a workshop, we'll make sure that we can, you know, reach out to you. And it goes to everybody on the call. And as far as, do we have emails for everyone? Do we have a good way to communicate with folks, whether it's by email? If we don't, then please make sure that, you know, you can
We
send
need
us
a general,
contact information.
Carlos, I believe Roberto has a phone number, a general phone number, where anyone, any tenant can call with a question, because not all of them have email. I have an email, the one
Right.
sitting next to me does not have an email,
Right.
and the one
Yeah.
across from me does not have an email. So,
We will get that number out to everybody. I'm not in a place where I can see that phone number right now. I
Right.
don't have that pass letter in front of me either, but we will get that phone number out.
okay.
I will say, however, please do keep a list of folks who need that kind of assistance readily available, Lisa. And then when we connect and in the future moving forward, we will put together workshops that allow for us to address that question more. To the second and third part of your question, it sounds as if, you know, that is an individual on an individual basis maybe, and it depends on the person and their own situation. And that's something that can be flushed out or further discussed or rather ironed out during any, you know, face-to-face workshops with folks, you know, who need that sort of help and
Yeah,
or
just
assistance.
there's a lot of them that want to leave it, leave the house. I, for one, want to leave it to my grandchildren.
Of course,
And
yeah.
so, and as a matter of fact, he's in the Zoom. He's on Zoom listening to us. And so we need to know how and why they're restricting heirs to be put, to leave the homes to them. So, and I agree with everybody, especially the demands that Libby said. We need to write letters and draft letters and have Marisha take a look at our letters and demand on the surplus. We need to pressure them, like you say, Carlos, because they should have told us, sent us a letter over a year ago about purchasing.
Yeah, and they're not going to do anything until we ask them to, guys. And the time's now. It's just my opinion. Listen, on the chat option, I put the United Caltrans Tenants info@gmail.com address. If you guys have any further questions, not that we're wrapping up, I defer to Angela, but I would say there's an email address there, United Caltrans Tenants info@gmail.com. Write that down, guys. And if you guys want to send an email out to us at that email address with your contact information, then that would be good. I think that there's some good follow-up to happen from here. We're going to have to recruit some volunteers to make it happen. And it could be something as simple as writing a letter that we can all agree on.
Like I said, I'm surrounded with seniors that don't have an email.
Oh, or mail letters. Just as long as it's something in writing, we can print those out once we've secured them.
So when Roberto can get that phone number out, that would be good.
Okay, that sounds good. Liam, I'm realizing that's Carlos. Carlos, did you want to say anything else?
Oh my, is that what I'm under?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that until right now. I'm sorry about that. I guess I
That's
logged
fine.
on with my nephew's account.
No worries.
No, I will just say that, this is a very constructive call. It's one of the first calls that we've had. I can't really speak to when we're having another meeting, but I think that it's safe to say that based on some of the information we received here, we're all going to come together sometime within the next week, put together the best possible letter that we can send out to people whose email addresses and addresses we have. And if people would like a copy of that, email us at UnitedCaltransTenantsInfo@gmail.com. I am going to put my telephone number up on the chat, absent something from the absent our official telephone number, right? That Roberto's looking for. 213-618-1765 is my cell phone number. Feel free to contact me if you want us to send you information, and or email us if you'd like to receive the information. And we expect to, I hope I'm not speaking out of place here, but Roberto, Lib, Angela, we're gonna have to come together and figure out, you know, what we can put together to share with folks, get the buy-in from folks, and then, you know, start moving in that direction. At that point, we can set up a follow-up call, follow-up meeting with folks. Does that sound right?
That sounds good. Yeah, maybe we could have a tentative meeting for July 3rd or 4th. Oh no, that's 4th of July. Or we could just do July 3rd if people are interested in being a part of the meetings and starting to organize. But yes, I agree with you guys.
Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Would it, I'm thinking if we can have 10 people, no more than 10 people with our social distance at the office that we use, the Eastside Cafe, that perhaps we can do it there because like we have a bulletin board, they can have paper, pen, and we'd be available, you know, everybody would be available to answer the questions for like the workshop, to do like the workshops in this manner.
I think
Because
that
the regulations say that no more than 10 people, social distance, wearing masks. I think we can do that at the office. I think there's enough space.
I'm open to it. I also know that it could be risky. It looks like a big space. It's when you get more than a little more than 5 people, it starts to become a smaller space. And I just wouldn't want to put anyone in harm's way. So I think that's something to think more about and talk more about. And we'll get back to everyone about it.
Okay.
Angela,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to just jump in.
That's
It's
okay.
Hugo. I was just wondering, I don't know what's people's expertise with Zoom. I'm just thinking about how we could have a meeting that would be the most productive. I know that I've been in Zoom meetings where people have used like PowerPoint. And I'm
Sure.
not sure if you can
Yeah.
do that
We
real
could do it.
time.
We could do it.
Okay, can you do it real time? So when we're talking,
Yes.
okay, because I'm just thinking, because we're talking about being able to have a meeting, and Lisa's point is good about, you know, you want to have like a board and all that. But I'm thinking if we can take some of these suggestions that have been made and put them into a PowerPoint, and then when we reconvene, say we have, like Libby had some great ideas, and then so did other people for maybe some of the ideas that have been brought up before, as to start off with and start to formulate what are the demands that have come from the past and the current demands. And then another portion of the meeting could be divided into developing strategy, whether it's with the city or with elected officials or whatever we're going to do, and start to develop a working process for organizing, for outreach, and for articulating a living document for our demands, and then the prioritization of those things.
Okay,
I'm just
that sounds
thinking we might be
great.
able to accomplish a lot of that on Zoom. Yeah.
Fridays, that's our work meetings, and we get things productive those days, and then we could set up a general meeting with everyone on a Saturday. That's what we've been doing. So I strongly suggest, if you feel like you want to be become more involved, if you have skills that you want to implement and you want to be a part of the organizing team, come to the Friday meetings. They usually start at 1 and they go up until 3. And then we'll have something to present to the general tenant population on a Saturday. How does that sound with everybody?
Okay, for me. Okay. Okay, over here on senior.
Okay, I'm getting thumbs up. 3 thumbs up. I got a thumbs up from Lisa. Okay, I'm getting good positive feedback. We're gonna go ahead and wrap up. And thank you everyone for joining us and participating, listening in. If you have any more questions, go ahead and email us. If you have specific questions for Carlos, email him and call him. And we'll get back to everyone as soon as we can.
Could we
Okay,
get
thank you so
Carlos's
much.
number?
Everyone have a beautiful day. Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Everybody participating.
You know what they did me wrong.
And sell me my home. So I don't know why you didn't talk about it, Carlos. You should have just mentioned it.
Wait, hold on, because there's still people on the call.
Oh,
So
gotcha.
I see Lorraine, I see Michelle.
I'll be back in a little bit.
Oh, okay. Okay, Roberto.
I'm gonna grab my parking pass. I'll be back.
I see James, I see Jenny. So I think what we're gonna do now is you're welcome to leave. The UCT organizing committee is gonna meet to talk just briefly. And I still see Vanessa.
Okay. So we can.
Dad?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. All right. So Lorraine, did you want?
I'm
Okay.
still
See you
here.
later. Bye, Lorraine.
Okay, my
You know,
senior left. I'm here.
Lorraine, do you know how to end it? I don't think so.
Angela, you can log her off if you need to.
Okay, Lorraine. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
El Sereno community is on there.
Yes, I'm under El Sereno Community Land Trust. Okay, Michelle. We'll see you later.
Hello, Jenny, are you off now?
Okay, James. You have a beautiful day. All right, Don. Did you have any feedback for us, Don? Are you good?
I'm good for right now.
Don? Okay, Don. We'll see you later. Okay, I got some people on phone calls. Is that you, Carlos?
I'm here.
Okay. Me, Libby, Lisa. Let's see if Carlos could get back on. Can someone text him?
It looks like Jenny is still on. She's under El Sereno Community Land Trust.
And Don is still on. Hey, Don, so we're gonna have a closed meeting right now. Would you mind logging off? Or I could try, I'm trying to actually log him off. I logged off everybody else and it worked, but for some reason it's not working with him. Trying to remove.
What about Jenny?
I don't see Jenny on here.
She's under El Sereno Community Land Trust.
No, that's me.
Oh, okay. So then
it's just Dawn.
Oh. Yeah, oh God, what did I do? All right. It's kind of difficult, the Zoom thing. I think we need a workshop just for us. Because it seems like the seniors come over here. And it's easier for me to do it on the tablet.
Okay, Don logged off. Phew, finally.
Okay, so for practice. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we need a little more practice on the Zoom. And I was telling your dad I'm going to go in with the tablet one of these days this week. So I can get that set up correctly, because I need to see a little more. I need to take some notes as to, I don't see all the time, I don't see the people that are asking the questions that
You don't need to
pop.
see them. You won't,
Okay.
yeah, but you know, also there's a lot of tutorials on your phone, Lisa. If you Google on your phone, like how to use Zoom, how to do whatever, there's
Oh,
all kinds
okay.
of quick little videos that give you some tutorials. So you might want to practice with those too.
Practice that. Okay, and then the other thing was that I don't read that fast. So there's people that are putting they're on chat, I believe, and they're putting their questions or whatever they want to say, and it goes too fast, you know, to read what they're saying, and then they're not, I don't know if I don't see them asking it, they just put it in the chat. You understand me?
You're saying the comments on the chat are too fast for you?
Not only me, the senior that was here.
Well, you don't have to worry too much about what's being said in chat, because what the host or the facilitator usually does, and what I've been doing, is taking down all of their comments and their questions. And if I'm not saying it, then I have them say it. So I wouldn't worry too much about it unless you have yourself a comment and someone's talking and they're talking very seriously and you don't want to lose your train of thought. That's a perfect place. You could just put your thoughts down and then leave it up to someone like me to be like, okay, Lisa, put out a question, and then I would present it to everyone.
Yeah, see, some of those things that were being popped up, I wanted to write down, and I also I'm not a secretary, I don't write that fast. I don't have.
You could actually you're gonna have a copy of the chat when oh, are you not recording anymore?
I think I am. I'm still recording.
Just so you know, whenever you record a chat, it also records whenever you record a Zoom meeting, it records a chat. And so you'll actually be able to go back and read the chats later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it actually saves that. And you could save it yourself too. If you go to participants and you go, like if you were going to type something in the chat, there's 3 little dots. If you click on that, it'll actually tell you, one of the options is to save the chat. And you could save the chat on your own computer.
It's not saying save, saying invite.
Well, it's because you're not in the right place, but that's okay. If you go to participants, or go to open the chat, like you're going to type something.
That would be under more.
It's not, I don't know what your view is, because you're on an iPad, right?
No, I couldn't get it on the iPad.
Are you on a phone or a laptop?
I'm on a smartphone. Android. Samsung.
Yeah, I don't know what it looks like on your end. It could be under more. It's usually just on its own and it says chat. You don't see it? You may not be able to do it if you're on a phone, because maybe there's nowhere to save the chat.
When I press more, it has chat, raise hand.
Click on
hide
chat.
my video. click on chat.
And do you see it, 3 little dots where it says where you could save the chat?
No, but it has everybody's things in here.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, there, it should have an option for you to save the chat, but I don't know why it doesn't. I'd have to see your phone. Sorry, Lisa. But
Yeah, I know.
you might want to Google how do you save the chat on Zoom for an Android, whatever. You know what I mean? And you might be able to find the answer like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, yes. So that's what I was thinking. This went pretty well, but you know, some of us have senior moments.
That's okay.
And I can't always understand or get the things, but you know, phones. You know that what they say about our kids, they can do it faster than us.
No, and a lot of people are new to Zoom, so you're not alone. I think it's okay.
I think too, your best bet is gonna be a laptop. So for some reason, when you're on your phone, your tablet, you have less control. With the desktop, you have it more steady for some reason.
Or a
So
laptop, yeah.
So you have everything in front of you when it's probably because it's bigger. Whereas when you have something smaller, you have all these little detailed features. So I would strongly suggest from here on, if you're gonna do Zoom, do it on your desktop.
Okay, so then I have to take that in because I am almost never on that. I'm either on tablet or phone. So
I would suggest your desktop.
Bring it in and
Bring it
get
in.
a
What do you
couple
mean
of
by bring it
training.
in?
Like Roberto had said, we can meet up on after he's done with his class, and then he can give me a quick little run through.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but otherwise it went pretty good. But
Considering,
yeah, considering, you know, and it was good that they came over to the house, and I noticed they weren't writing notes. I was, but that's the thing. They're depending on me, and I want them to be dependent on themselves. You know.
You guys, I actually have to go because I'm at urgent care with Brian. He fell off his bike. So he'll be fine with the alerts out, but I'm here and I have to attend and make sure he's okay. I just wanted to check with you guys. Angela, are you going to send us the link of the recording so I could send it via MailChimp to everybody?
Yes, but how do I do that? Do I just end and then it'll save it automatically?
Okay, stop the recording right now. Go ahead and